In what year did the American Revolutionary War begin? 1776178317775. Who was the first President of the United States? Thomas Jefferson, George Washington, Abraham Lincoln. In what year was the U.S. Constitution adopted? 1787177661791. From which country did the U.S. acquire the Louisiana Purchase? Spain, France, Britain. What war began in 1861? The Civil War, the War of 1812, the Revolutionary War. What economic crisis occurred in 1929? The Great Depression, the dot-com bubble burst, the financial crisis. What event led the U.S. to enter World War II? Pearl Harbor attack, Germany's invasion of Poland, the Berlin blockade. Which U.S. president was assassinated in 1963? Lyndon Johnson, John F. Kennedy, Richard Nixon. Who was the leader of the Union Army during the Civil War? Jefferson Davis, Ulysses S. Grant, Robert E. Lee. Which cities were hit by atomic bombs in 1945? Hiroshima and Nagasaki, Tokyo and Osaka, Sapporo and Kobe. What document was adopted on July 4, 1776? The Declaration of Independence, the U.S. Constitution, the Bill of Rights. Who was the President of the Confederate States during the Civil War? Abraham Lincoln, Jefferson Davis, Andrew Jackson. What did the 19th Amendment, passed in 1920, grant? Prohibition, women's suffrage, abolition of slavery. Who was the first astronaut to walk on the moon in 1969? Buzz Aldrin, Neil Armstrong, Michael Collins. In what year did the 9/11 attacks occur? 19952001211. What proclamation did Lincoln issue in 1863? The Declaration of Independence, the Emancipation Proclamation, the End of Civil War Proclamation. Who was the U.S. President during World War II? Harry Truman, Franklin D. Roosevelt, Dwight D. Eisenhower. What military alliance was formed against the Soviet Union during the Cold War? The Warsaw Pact, NATO, the League of Nations. Who was a key leader in the civil rights movement of the 1960s? Malcolm X, Martin Luther King Jr., Frederick Douglass. What is the capital of the United States? New York, Washington, D.C., Chicago. Which brothers successfully flew the first airplane in 1903? The Wright brothers, the Montgolfier brothers, the Maxwell brothers. What was the economic boom of the 1920s called? The Lost Generation, the Roaring Twenties, the New Deal. Which senator led anti-communist movements in the 1950s? Richard Nixon, Joseph McCarthy, Robert Kennedy. Who was the U.S. president in the 1980s? Jimmy Carter, Ronald Reagan, George H.W. Bush. In what year was slavery abolished in the U.S.? 1865-1877-1848. Which European country helped the U.S. during the Revolutionary War? Spain, France, Netherlands. What war did the U.S. enter in 1941? World War I, World War II, the Korean War. Who was elected U.S. President in 1860? Abraham Lincoln, James Buchanan, Andrew Johnson. Who won the U.S. presidential election in 1960? Richard Nixon, John F. Kennedy, Barry Goldwater. Which president implemented the New Deal in the 1930s? Herbert Hoover, Franklin D. Roosevelt, Dwight D. Eisenhower. Who was the U.S. president during the Cuban Missile Crisis in 1962? John F. Kennedy, Lyndon Johnson, Harry Truman. Which country did the U.S. fight in the Spanish-American War of 1898? Mexico, Spain, Germany. Among the original 13 colonies, which was the northernmost? Massachusetts, New Hampshire, New York. What war lasted from 1939 to 1945? The Vietnam War, World War II, the Korean War. Which war did the U.S. fight from 1950 to 1953? The Vietnam War, the Korean War, the Gulf War. What 1862 law encouraged westward expansion? The Homestead Act, the Railroad Act, the Immigration Act. The Watergate scandal happened under which president? Richard Nixon, Jimmy Carter, Gerald Ford. How much did the U.S. pay for the Louisiana Purchase in 1803? $15 million, $25 million, $5 million. What was discovered in California in 1848? Oil, gold, silver. What Cold War policy was announced in 1947? The Truman Doctrine, the Marshall Plan, the Eisenhower Doctrine.